Welcome back to Female Voices Life and Loss. This is Wayna Berry, and you are not seeing double. Today, I'm with my mom.
Everyone,
It's Laverne Hill.
yes.
Today, we're going to talk about caregiving. So, loving through letting go, caregiver's journey. So, Mom, I just want you to educate the people. First, tell them about who you are, what you do, about that world of caregiving and taking
Woo.
care of other people, whether it be dependent adult, elderly parents,
People
things
with
like that.
mental and physical. I am a client manager, something like a case manager. I go to your home, I talk with you about assessing you on your needs. What's going on with you? What's your diagnosis? How are you feeling? What
Mhm.
you think you need help with? How does your family help you? And what can they do and what aren't they doing that you need help with? Because sometimes families can do so much and they do need extra help. Caregiver can be overwhelming. So I've been in this caregiving business over 10 years. I worked for the state. I was one of the assessors who would say, you said, hey, I think I need these services because my mom is getting some dementia or she can't really walk that well or, she had a stroke. So I'm going to come out to your home. We're going to talk. I'm going to walk through your home. I'm going to assess it for danger, make sure everything is safe, see what you need, see what her needs are and have a conversation. I ask her a slew of questions.
Say her who is
We're just talking about a typical mom.
the mom
Or
or
the
the
dad,
other
or the dad,
or the child that's taking
or the
care of these elderly
No,
parents.
first we're talking about the elderly parents. We're
Okay.
talking
Okay.
to the elderly parents
Mhm.
because, you don't want to just talk around them. You don't want to forget them. This is
Okay.
their journey. We're going to talk to the person who needs the help.
Do you ever take them to their side, like to the side, and just have a talk just to make
Oh,
sure
I'm
they're getting what they need?
I'm
Okay.
going to talk to the person who needs the help first. And I'm going to see what they're talking about, see what they're needing.
Okay.
And then I'm going to take their child, their friend, or whoever's there to support them. I'm going to take them to the side because elderly patients sometimes are in dementia, Alzheimer's, had a stroke, and forget some things. Because my mom, if you ever asked her, it was 1976. Anytime you asked her what day it was 1976. So I'm going to talk to them about what they expect, what they need. But I'm going to be keeping the family or the friend or whoever in this conversation as I'm assessing this need. In Missouri, to get help like this, you have to have Medicaid. So if you don't have it, I'm going to do that too.
So full service though, right?
Full
So
service.
we're talking today about, personal things, sitting down with my mom, talking about love, talking about caregiving, talking about loss and what it means to show up for someone during their final chapter.
That's hard.
So let's back up, Mom, though. So take us back to when you first realized you were stepping into this kind of role for caregiving. When was the first time that you stepped into that kind of role of caregiving?
First time I stepped into that role of caregiving is when I was pregnant with my daughter, Danielle. My dad had a procedure and he had to be homebound and we had to take care of him, clean him up, do everything for him. I think he had like a heart procedure. I was pregnant with Danielle. That was my first. And that was kind of rough because, when men, they get prideful. They don't want you to help them. They do want you to help them. And then they become big babies.
It's hard for me to imagine. So that means you had to be like what, 20?
23.
Okay, 23, and grandpa is what age at this point?
He is 31 years older than me, so he was
He was
20.
getting up on that.
He was
30
40.
years old?
Yeah.
30 plus
He 31 years.
23.
Yeah, he was 30. He's 32 years older than me. My mom's 31. So he was 32 years older than I am. For him, still being kind of a young person, as far as, he thought he was still that. That's kind of hard. And then men, they're so prideful about asking for help. But then when they down, they're like big babies. They want you to wait on them, hand it. Well, I need this. Can you give me that? No,
So
I don't
true.
like that. I need this.
So true.
And I'm pregnant at that time too. So it's like,
So that's like kind of a similar thing because I was pregnant when I was taking care of Papa.
Uh-huh.
So Grandpa Smith, I was pregnant taking care of him. So I was older. Well, I
She
was
was older.
41 pregnant. So Grandpa might have been like 90 or 93 or something
Something
like
like
that.
he was like,
Yeah, he was something like that.
Mhm.
So I would go over there and cut his hair, and I would
Yep.
clean the house, and I would bring him some food, and he gonna give me a scripture. So we gonna pray. We gonna have church before I leave, because he gonna educate me some about the Lord.
Mm.
So it is, but he's like you said, he was like he did not want to wear Depends, even though he kept having accidents.
Mm.
So I would literally get there, and there are flies in the bathroom because nobody's been there all week. So I was just wanting to resonate. I resonate with that.
Yeah. So that was my first experience.
Hmm. Yeah, that's kind of hard. And then I imagine Grandpa was not super appreciative.
Of course not. Of course not. Like, "You're supposed to do this." No, sir. At 23, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, but you know what?
Not even
We're
a
gonna
little.
make
Where
gonna
was
make
them 18 women at? That's who should have been doing it. Okay, I'm sorry.
side note, yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting on some other stuff. That's family
And
business.
and
But
and I'm the youngest, and where were all the older kids? They weren't, where were they? When my parents had something serious going on, they called me.
that's
And
interesting.
yeah, it needs like taking care of their business, real business, or anything like that. I get a call. Now they won't help me do anything, but help them. Now when they needed some help, I got that call.
And I imagine though, our family was not millionaires,
No,
so
it wasn't.
the money went to who they thought needed
Needed.
the most
Yeah, I
help.
had to
It
learn
doesn't
that.
always feel good. I'll say that.
I had to learn that when I got grown, because being young, it hurt.
Yeah. Let's see. So she's gonna do an assessment. She's gonna help you figure out
What you
what you
need.
need. I was also working for the state where I was one of the assessors, but I was the person in the call center that
Mhm.
made the plan. You
They
need
made the care plan.
you need 15 minutes of sweeping, 15 minutes of cooking.
Say, when I did assessors, we did all of that too. We did our care plans. We did everything. All of
Maybe
that.
these are the people that just called in for the support and didn't
Probably
have
so.
anybody
Mhm.
visit. So maybe
Yeah,
that's what
because
it
we
was.
did all our plans and stuff, and even when I did go to work at an agency, I still did assessments. I did the
Mhm.
reassessments. I still did, like I was working for the state. Still same.
Same protocol, I imagine.
Same. I
Um,
had to get, because I still had to get certified by the state to do the reassessments and stuff
mhm.
too. So still the same protocol. Still had to go to Jeff City.
What made you choose this field to work in?
In my life, I've always helped people. When people need something, I get that call. When people down, I get that call. When people it's just I always get those kind of calls. So it's like,
Mhm.
I may as well do this, because I started off being an admin assistant
Mhm.
because my kids were young and I wanted something steady. And I worked at a temp service, and then I got a full-time job, and I was moving in that direction. And just by chance, I got fired. When
Mhm.
my vice president was out of town because somebody just didn't like it. But when they came back in town, they was pissed off, and they said, "You need to hire her back."
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. When I was working for my current
Mhm.
parent, they was like, "You need to hire her back," and I
Mhm.
was like, "No, that's okay."
I got it.
I
I
had
got it.
I
Hard
had
found.
applied for the state, and I got hired onto the state, so I was
Mhm.
like, "Nope, that's okay." And I first got hired to family services, like
Mhm.
getting your food stamps, getting your
Well,
Medicaid, all of
yeah.
that.
Now I
Yeah.
remember. Okay.
Yeah, I did all of that, getting your daycare, and then from there, I became a case manager with the state, which was, because the state gave you 5 years to get off services.
Mhm.
So I was that person that assessed what you needed. You need your GED. I set you up a GED class. You need a training class. I set you up
Mhm.
with a training class. Whatever. And every week I would have a meeting. Really, I'd bring together all these agencies in town that had
Mhm.
stuff to offer people like that,
Oh,
and I'd have them in one
nice. So
place.
a little mini
I had
career fair
I had a
thing.
little mini career fair, and
Oh,
if
that's
you were my
amazing.
clients, it was mandatory for you to be there, because this is the help that you need. I did that.
So funny because then, fast forward to me working at Catholic Charities doing the
Right.
same exact thing
That's so
of
hilarious.
just serving people and wanting them to get a job and not need these
Need
state
these things,
aid
right?
or
Services.
that's so crazy. So, but when I think about that time though, just with having Gabe with me and everything like that at
Mhm.
Catholic Charities, that was the most sweetest time, even though I worked, oh my God,
I
I
liked you at
worked
Catholic Charities. I can
I
get
worked
free stuff.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday.
That was
It was gutter. It was gutter.
it was tough.
But it was very enriching with the people that I met, with the things that I learned about myself too, because that was around that time where I had to teach Gabe how to use the computer
Mhm.
so I could look for a job. I
Some
too was
great
fired.
women
I
there
too
too.
was.
But you had some great women there. I remember they was teaching you recipes and stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You had
The
some great
Mamas Club,
Yeah.
Midtown Mamas Club.
Yeah.
Shout out to Miss Bobby. Love you still.
Yeah. They had
No,
some
they taught
great
me
ones.
all kind of stuff. And those were just
Yeah.
some really powerful women
They
too in
were.
that community.
They
They had
were.
been through things. They make it plain and talk plain. I miss them. I miss those ladies. But let's take us, so we're on a journey. My mom has gone through her own job loss transition. That is how she landed into this caregiving role. Paid this time. And then let's keep going. So from that time, Grandpa, of course, gets better and he's fine for a minute
Mhm,
anyway.
mhm.
And then we transition. I don't remember who came first. Was it Grandma Cindy, my great grandma,
Yeah.
or
Mm.
because it was ironic to have great grandma and her son both going through hospice, is for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
They wanted to be at home, but it was hospice and they were on their
Cindy went
way.
first.
Yeah. So I mean, just
And
I
she
don't
was
know how you even thought. We don't give a lot of space to those moments, meaning being in grandma's house. So, long story short, my grandfather and my grandmother were not together when my mom was born,
they
but
were they were
somehow,
together when I was born. They just went that way.
yeah, like they separate. That's what I mean.
Mhm.
They weren't like,
They wasn't here. They was like they was there.
right.
They was there.
So then he comes back home to grandma though. So how did Grandma Cindy land at the house and Grandpa land at the house?
Okay, Grandma Cindy is my father's mother, okay?
Mhm.
And she was 94. She had outlived 3 husbands, but she was my
Go
girl.
Grandma
She got
Cindy.
married at her last husband, she got married at 80, so I was like,
It's
"Oh
my
my
girl. She
god."
didn't even play, but yeah.
She started getting sick, and like I said, I think she outlived all her kids but 2 of
She
them.
did not live.
Oh, she just buried John. She just buried John. That was the only one
Yeah.
she buried. That was her oldest son.
Yeah,
Um
she did not live the other.
She was at 80-some years old. She took her my cousin who had cancer. She brought her into her house, Louise.
Oh, okay. I
We were
didn't know
in
she took
Florida.
her.
No one else in our family would take her. And she brought her
Oh,
into our house,
so Grandma
and
said they took her. Oh,
she took care of her until she passed, and she took care of her funeral and all of that stuff. She did
wow.
all of that, and I was kinda angry. I did make some calls from Florida.
But let's
Mhm,
let's pause for a minute though. Grandma Cindy is another woman matriarch in our family who
mhm.
had a boarding home. And
Yes.
gosh, how many rooms was in that home?
5, 6, like 6 rooms, 6, 7, and then she had 2 rooms in the basement.
So almost 10 rooms,
Mhm.
like almost.
3-story house, and yeah.
It was a huge house. It looked like a castle. So all my friends called it a castle. But just thinking about this is kind of a little bit of the legacy that we come
Mhm.
from of a strong woman who outlived 3 husbands, who I don't even know how old she was when I was 5, but she made biscuits every day for me and my
Oh,
cousins and
yes.
and things
And,
like that.
she's cooked from scratch everything,
That was her
everything.
thing. That was her thing.
And she makes stuff
Like,
I had never heard of. I mean, I would go to work with her, and she would make these dishes. I had been a, Black inner city child. I never heard of salmon display. Just she made it was beautiful. She made oh my gosh, she made some beautiful things.
yeah.
I just missed I was like, dang, I should have been in that kitchen.
She still didn't get in that kitchen because Shorty is what I like to call my mother's mother.
Yeah.
She can make everything from scratch too.
She learned from a lot that she
Yeah.
learned.
Strong women. Oh, wonderful.
She
So I just wanted to give a little bit background about
mhm.
Grandma Cindy and not pass by her because she was a strong woman in our family and she
She
did
was
try to
a matriarch. She
provide.
provided. She
Yeah.
put her house up when people went to jail. She provided food. She bought cars. She bought groceries. She paid bills.
Yeah.
She
So
was
let's
just awesome. I
let's
love it.
let's get to, how did that look with Grandma Cindy and who's laying in a hospital bed next to her son, who are both living in my grandma's family room. Bless them.
So we were in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and she went down, and they took her out to mom's house, and she hated it. And we came up. I told them I'll be up in October. We came
Mm-hmm.
up for a couple of weeks so I could take care of her.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Okay.
came up to take care of her, and she talked to me. She took her med. She didn't because
Mhm.
we're gonna even go.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth
But
it.
I want to
But
talk about your
yeah, I'm just saying.
transition
So
of
coming to
leaving
Florida,
Florida to take care of your grandmother.
I left. Then we went back to Florida. But then when my dad got sick, we went back because we were just here for a couple
Mhm,
of weeks, and then
mhm,
she passed, and we came back for her
mhm,
funeral. And then while we were in Florida, my mom kept calling me because my dad was going down. Y'all got to come back up because dad is this, dad is that.
mhm,
So we eventually moved back to St. Louis because dad was going down. That's because he was the one who kept up with us out
mhm,
of town, and my mother
mhm.
was just because he couldn't keep up with us. Mom was really stressing out. That's why we came. That's why we left Florida.
So I remember I have a limited memory of
Mhm.
both of them being there,
They were there for a minute.
but I am not a person who knows anything about CNA work or anything like that.
Right.
Bless, I tried. Um,
My
uh,
grandmother passed. My dad went down. We
mhm.
tried to get my mom help. I said, "Mom, I'll pay for an aide. I'll pay for the nurse." My mother quit her job.
Oh, I thought she retired.
She quit. She quit to take care of him.
Okay. Oh,
She brought him back into her house,
mm,
and that's how she got bad. She took care of him for the last 10 years of his life, and neglected herself. She made sure he
okay.
had his doctors, made sure he had his food. She made sure she bought a car so that people could take her around to take him to his doctor's appointments
Okay.
and get
Okay.
everything because she never drove. That's why she bought the car so she could make sure dad got all the stuff that he needed.
Tell
Yeah,
you, that is a strong woman
it
because they
was
were not together for at least
20,
30.
25 years.
But so emotions, feelings, what's happening for you around this time where both are there and life still has to happen at this.
Like, and I'm still got to work. I still got to you kind of compartmentalize. I mean, through this, I got to work. I still got kids I got to raise. I still got to be there for my mom and then help with my dad. It
Mhm,
was,
mhm,
you
mhm.
just kind of, and yeah. And then we moved. You went to college and I moved to a house in Florissant. And we had left for a while. Me and my Danielle had left. We moved to
Mm,
California because he stabilized again. We
mhm.
moved to California and I kept hearing God say, move back, go back home. And I was like, what am I going back home for? I don't want to go to St. Louis. I'm in California. I want to go to St. Louis. And then I came back and found out how bad my mom was. And
Mhm.
so I had to just reconfigure my life. I had to take her in my home. I had to put some strategies to protect her and her assets. It was a lot. It was a lot.
And so, what were some of the hardest moments during that?
The hardest one was at first because my mom is such a mom and she wanted to make sure everybody else is okay. I remember once her gas was off. I bought her a space heater. My oldest nephew bought her a blanket, a heating blanket,
Mhm.
so that she would be good. I come over there from work and she's sitting in the back with just this heater. No, I go, Mom, where's your heating blanket? Well, I gave it to the kids. I said, okay, get your shoes on.
Mhm.
We're leaving now.
Mhm.
Well, we supposed to sink and swim. I said, you can't swim, and I'm not letting you
She
drown.
cannot.
I said, you can't swim, so I'm not letting you drown, so get your shoes on. And I called her sister, and I told her what I was doing,
Mhm.
and she backed everything up. She took care of all the
We love
fallout.
Aunt Gwen,
Took care of, I said, they're going to call you at the call. She
reincarnated
said,
Aunt Gwen.
she took care of all of the fallout.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They be are. And what are some of the most meaningful moments, sacred moments?
You know what? Because my mom got into really bad dementia. At this time, I met my husband, and we moved in. We joined our homes together. She'd be in dementia. She would just say stuff, and then she would get a moment of clarity, and she'll look at me. She said, "God's gonna bless you."
Oh,
She said, "God's really gonna bless you."
that's not what she said to me, though. She said, Wayna, who is this person sitting next to you? And she said that to me every 10 minutes. And so I made up stories to
Yep,
make it
yep.
fun. Gabe was sitting there. Gabe was 10. And she said, Wayna, who is this next to you? And I said, this is a homeless child that I met on the way in. And she's like, oh, good for you. Wayna, taking care of people. Good for you. And then she says, Wayna, where your husband at? Because she only remembers me being married to Gabe's father.
Uh-huh.
And I would make up a different story every 10 minutes. And
Well,
I
she
was
wouldn't
like,
remember it, so
I let him go, Grandma. She said, well, good riddance. If he wasn't doing what you needed him to, good for you, Wayna. So even in dementia, she was very supportive
she was very supportive,
and sassy.
and she loved Nathaniel. The
She
movie.
loved men. So
Oh,
let's say this up
yeah,
front.
that's
She
true.
loved men.
She loved me.
I don't want to skip over
Okay, go ahead.
how heart-wrenching it is with the limited services that were available with
At the
Medicare.
time.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
So this is how I first got into it with the state. I was working at UMSL and my mom needed help. So I would go home every day at lunchtime and make sure she ate and just checked on, like change her diaper, change her thing out. Because she was still walking. She would go to the bathroom sometime and sometimes she wouldn't. And sometimes she would pee in the toilet. In the trash can.
Hey,
That's a
whatever.
dementia thing.
Mhm.
And so I would go home at lunchtime. This is my lunchtime every day was
Mhm.
going over there. And I said, this lady talked to me and she said, she can get some help from the state. I was like, really? Because I had never heard of the home community based services because it's a different part of the state. And so I reached out to her. They
Mhm.
sent me a worker. The first worker was only there like 4 hours, and
Mhm.
because that's all she needed. But then as her dementia grew and got
Mhm.
worse, I needed more time. I needed some time because I was going to school. I was going to University of Phoenix, and I was
Mhm.
working full time and taking care of my mom. I
Yeah.
don't even know if I slept. I don't even remember sleeping back then.
Yeah, those and so just thinking about somebody, being a caregiver, they're trying to manage all the things, right?
Yeah,
And
it's their life.
you then you have to come down to the hard decision. So I remember just talking to one of my friends, Gregory, about, that my grandmother's in a home. And so
Mm.
he said very judgmentally that, well, when my grandmother was sick, we all took turns
That was nice.
taking care of her.
That was nice.
But it's 11 of them.
Oh,
He has 10 siblings. And I don't know that all helped. And I don't know what bothered me about the comment was that he never asked anything
about
about the situation. He just made a judgment that helped, like,
oh,
why would you put your grandma in a home? And I was just like, my grandma was 4'6" and she was like 300 pounds. We could not move her. She's
yeah,
dead
it
weight.
was bad trying to go get her to the
But
doctors. Me and my husband, I have a part of my back now that I threw out because of her.
yeah.
But going to a home because she needed more care. I was
Speak to that part just
because she
about
needed more
making that
care. It
decision
was
and how
hard.
hard.
It
Yeah.
was very hard, and I
Mhm.
had to. And at the same time, this part you don't know
Mhm.
is that I had a worker who wasn't taking care of my mother. My mother had a Hoyer lift and all this stuff that I paid for, and
Mhm.
she wouldn't get her. My mom loves sitting in her recliner in the girl.
Mhm.
And so Nathaniel called her LZ. And then I come home because I'm working for the state now. I'm
Mhm.
doing assessments. I come home. This girl is heating up a can of soup on a paper plate in the microwave. Now
Yeah,
I
that's what
had
that's
bowls,
about.
I
Yeah.
had soup, I had everything my mom needed. I made sure
Mhm.
every month I just stocked her up.
Mhm.
And so I
Mhm.
called the agency and said, "Hey, is this what y'all teaching?"
Mhm.
So she got mad because she got in trouble, so she hotlined.
Okay. Okay.
And, so I had to talk to because I was in for the state, so I had to talk to the people from St. Charles.
Mhm.
And they were a little prejudiced because they were mad, 'cause,
Exactly.
they were a
Mhm.
little prejudiced, but, so they were threatening to take her, and I said, "But the hotline went nowhere," of
Mhm.
course,
Mhm.
because
Okay.
I hired, my husband's sister to come
Mhm.
'cause I
Okay,
had to
I
be at work
remember.
at 7. She came in the morning, and then she would come back at 3 and be there till I came home, just to make sure she had coverage. But my mother couldn't walk. She was bedbound. She didn't go
Yeah.
nowhere.
Yeah.
She was good watching her TV and having her Pepsi. As long as she
Yeah.
had them, she good. So
Yeah, no,
it
I
was a
just
hard.
want you to give, and then so just think about people who are in that same season,
Ooh,
where there's not enough resources.
it's not.
Medicare only pays for X amount of hours
And Medicaid only pays for so many.
to the workers too. So, both things that people in this season need to look for.
You need to look for a worker who's in this kind of business. Anytime you're in this business taking care of people, it's got to be something in your heart for people.
Mm.
If you're here just, oh, because I just need a job and I don't have to have all these wonderful skills, they're not going to be good workers. They're going to not show up. They're going to come and sit down and watch TV and be on their phone. I go through that now, but they're
Mhm.
going to be on their phone. So you need a worker who has this heart for people, who's
Mhm.
really wants to make sure that people are okay.
Mhm.
Those are the workers, and you want to pay them. You don't mind paying them because they show up, they
Mhm.
do the job. They usually become part of your family. They
I'm
become part of
good. Good.
families, and we become part of their families too.
Mhm.
Because when our clients pass, I go to the funerals, I go to the repasts. I'm there. I'm showing up because she wasn't just a client. I want the family to know that she wasn't just a number for us. So that's important too.
And thinking about that, let's speak to how you support those with you being a minister as well.
Oh
So
yeah.
just speak to some of that as well.
Almost every day. I become a counselor, minister, I'm praying. I get workers who are just navigating life and
Mhm.
things happen and they're stressed. So I find myself on the phone. We are praying, we are counseling, we are talking, and they miss for thank you. And I think I was put in the position that I am now for these seasons that right here.
Mhm.
I wind up praying for people in my office. A
Mhm.
young lady was going through something. She said, "Miss Laverne, can I talk to you?" And I was like, "Sure." We wind up praying about things, sickness, ever. And being a minister, you have that heart for people already. So it all kind of works hand in hand, there to help, to support, to sometimes guide and push a little bit because you have to
Mhm.
push a little bit. Not my kids are great, but I've had to push other people's kids. Things
Let's
like that.
see. So we're
Mhm.
gonna wrap up. But what kept you going when things felt hard? So if you're a person in this season
It
and you're taking care of whether it's elderly parents or dependent adults or even dependent children who
you can't
can't
do for
they can't
yourself.
live alone.
It's
So
frustrating. It gets really frustrating. And you, as a caregiver, because you're human, you get tired. And sometimes you just get so frustrated. You be like, okay, stop. I just need to breathe. I need a break. But you don't have a break. There's
mhm,
not a break to give because
mhm,
sometimes there's not anybody there to give you a break.
mhm,
Like in my case, my siblings went there and you just have to stop, breathe, and remember why you're here. These are the people that we love. These are our parents, our children, and we want the best for them. I promise when I came down to me taking care of my mom and my siblings, I said, you know what? These are her golden years. I'm going to make sure they're golden. And I made sure that every day that she was here was golden. It was tough on me. It was tough on my body. It was tough on my mind. It was tough. But with God's help, prayer, and then some other people praying for you. Sometimes
mhm,
when you just cannot pray, call somebody and let them pray for you. I'm gonna tell you, it lifts your spirits. You go like, okay, I'm back in the game. I am
mhm.
woosah. I'm ready to continue this journey.
Are there respite services and things like that that people can call on that,
Yeah,
they may not get? I don't remember how many they get in those little
it
packages and programs and things
don't
like
get a
that,
lot of
but
hours of respite, but you can get respite services. Respite is there to give the caregivers a break. Like, it may be just an hour for somebody else to come and sit with your son or your mom or your daughter or your
mhm,
dad. They come and sit while you just go get your nails done or run to the store. And
mhm,
and sometimes it's 2 hours. You get the 2 hours, you're good. You can just go in the room and woosah, take a
mhm,
nap. Somebody else and they just gonna sit there and talk to your mom or maybe take them for a walk or whatever
mhm,
that or your dad or whatever they need. Whatever they wanna do, they're gonna sit there with them. And that helps a lot of caregivers. Also, there are
mhm,
caregiver communities. Like if you go online, you'll find groups of caregivers that will help. That wasn't in my time, but they're there now. They help each other to encourage each other.
mhm,
They share stories and then they share stories of how they got past this moment.
mhm.
It could be just a moment sometime. And you know
Okay,
how you
good.
got past this moment. And they're there to support each other because caregivers do need that support. And then it's like she said, the hard decision is, do I put my mom or my parent or my person in a nursing facility? When they start needing 24-hour care, even if you do not work, you cannot give that. You'll probably pass out before they pass out. So
Mhm,
you can't help anybody when you're broken. So when you put them, when you make that decision, it's hard because my mother, when I pulled up, she said, "This is a nursing home, ain't it?" Because I told her we was going to a doctor or something. I don't know what I told her. And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "Okay." And then when she got there, she liked it because she wasn't by herself all day. She
mhm.
got to be around other people. And
Yeah, that's a
that was
different
the
side.
thing.
Yeah.
She got to be your parent is the home with you all day. But when they go to a nursing home, there's other people, others who are in dementia, others in
Mhm,
wheelchair. They sing songs, they have church, they have things for them to do. It's especially if you get the right one. It is a really my mother really enjoyed her time there. And that made me feel it takes something off of you. You don't feel so guilty. You don't feel like you're just
mhm.
this bad daughter, you know. But I knew I couldn't do it by myself anymore.
And grandma sassy. So what she told me, Wayna, I need them to put me in a room with a man.
Yes, she did say that.
And
She did.
anytime I came in, she had her leg out up under her blanket to let them know that she was ready and she stays ready.
She stays ready.
Yeah.
She had a
She's super
roommate,
spicy.
and I'll never forget Miss Annie. Miss Annie, she was a little old lady, and she would tell you that I'm a church lady, and then curse you out. And one day she was being too loud. My mama told her to stop all that noise, and she told her they both was going to kick each other's butt. Neither one can stand, but they're going to kick each other's butt. And my husband was there, and that lady said, "I'm gonna do something," and my mother said, "I'm gonna kick your butt," and looked at my husband and said, "And you gonna help."
That's the role in our family though.
And
So if
Nathaniel just
I'm
said,
upset, we're all upset, okay? If
Nathaniel
I
said,
fight, we're all
Oh,
fighting.
Nathaniel said, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am." It
And
was
it never went
of
anywhere.
course they
Don't
just
worry.
fussed and up. But you know what? Her family, Miss Annie's family, really appreciated my mom because she'd had other roommates before my mom
Mhm.
came, and nobody could be in a room with her. And they said my mother was her last straw. If she couldn't be in a room with her, they was gonna have to pay or a private room. So when they would get to cussing each other out, she would get to cussing my mother, just tell, shut up. And I told him, I said, my mother is going to be okay with her. She'll be okay with my mom.
Grandma can hold
And
on.
they was like, well, they kept saying, are you sure? Are you sure? And I was like, oh, yeah, she could have cursed her back out and told her to shut up. And that's what she did. She told her to shut up and everything.
She didn't mind.
But but then she looked for her when she wasn't in her room. You know, they were funny together.
Yeah, my grandma's funny. One of my funniest memories of her, because she would call me, we had Jesus. Every Saturday for a year, we had to shop from 8 to 5. She was my part-time job. Pregnant and all, newborn and all. She could care less. But one day she wanted something to eat, and she called my cousin, who's my brother, John. She called John and said, John, bring me something to eat. And so John called me and was like, Wayna, go take mama something to eat, because that's what he called our grandma. And I said, she called you because she wanted to give me a break. That's why she called you. But I took her something to eat anyway. So to my grandmother, my mother is her youngest child who doesn't cook. And so to grandma.
Yeah, well, when I had my grandma, I didn't cook.
Grandma looked at me in the same light. So I brought her some food and she side-eyed me. And she did, I like to call it what my stepson Charlie would do, like a half of a half of a half. And she's like,
she did that to me too.
And then she looked at me and she said, you cooked this? And I said, yeah. And she was like, okay, I guess it's good.
She did that to me.
Okay, low key, I didn't cook that night. It had cooked. I just said it so she could just stop.
Oh, she did
so
that
she wouldn't do that anymore. That's why I said it.
She did.
But my ex-husband cooked. What did he cook? He was very, very good at,
different little things like barbecue and stuff like that.
He would make very good steak and very good baked chicken.
Yeah.
And so he made baked chicken and some baked potatoes, and she was fine. But she side-eyed me up until she tasted it, and she was like, I guess. I guess it's a pass. That's all I can hope for, actually.
I'm probably going to get that way when I get old, too.
She does that now. I don't know why she's lying. But let's move on. Okay, we got to wrap it up. Okay. So we're thinking about, were you grieving grandma before she passed? So we're talking about the anticipatory grief of knowing, this is kind of the final days of our parents, knowing it's coming. Winter's coming.
With my mom, her passing was just kind of a sudden, because she didn't take a lot of medicine. She didn't have high blood pressure. She just took Alzheimer's dementia pills. And that was usually it. And she could eat anything she wanted. She didn't have low sugar. She didn't have diabetes. She didn't have all
those
things.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, it was great. It was really great. And so she got sick and had to go to the hospital. And she kept telling me she was ready to go home.
Okay.
And I'm like,
so
okay.
They do know.
So I'm thinking that she's coming home. She's ready to come home. But so grieving, I guess I got used to her being there and doing all these things. It was just part of for 10 years I had my mother. So it just become routine, and she's part of my day-to-day and stuff. And so the morning when they called me and they told me to get to the hospital, I said, okay, I just jumped me and my husband. And on the way there, she passed. And I went and got my aunt. We, picked up Gwen and called my siblings. And but when we got there, she was just so peaceful. And on her board, it said, going home. Her board said, and that gave me such a peace. And I felt like, okay, Lord, I did what you asked me. I came, because I'm going to tell you something about God. People always say, here I am, God, send me. God knows who will go and who will do. All those that say, send me, he knows they won't do it and they won't go. But he knows the ones that will. And she would just tell me, just out the blue, tell me stuff in that midst of dementia, which kept me going. It kept me energizing. And then I didn't know she knew all these gospel songs. Got there one Sunday and she was singing every song that they were singing.
Yeah, because she never went to church or anything.
She was Catholic. And so that's what surprised me. Yeah, they were Catholic. And we grew up Catholic. And so she believed, that's why I had that rosary when she passed, because she was Catholic. But she knew all these songs and she was singing them with the people just as loud. And I was like, wow, okay. But you know what? You never know what God is doing with people.
So
and you never know. Because my grandmother told me she was going home. She was tired. And she kept telling me, she said, baby, I'm tired. I said, okay. And I told my parents, I said, we'll be back in December. And they was like, you'll never come home for Christmas. I said, well, Cindy said she's tired and she's ready to go home. She don't know. I said, you don't know what conversation her and God had. Because my grandmother was in the same church for 75 years.
She was.
She did everything in that church. And even when she got older, she would just get out of her house and walk to the corner and somebody picked her up.
Yeah. Yep.
They picked her up. They brought her home. Sometimes they took over their house to eat. I grew up
Yeah.
in that with I don't even tell you about these old ladies when I would be at the church. I was embarrassed. I was 12. It was just too much. And her
A
friends
little
were,
shocked.
yeah, it was shocking. And then innocent 12. Then she was, they called her red because she had red hair. That's where you got the red hair from when you was little. And she was something.
She pretty sassy. Let's
Love
see.
her.
So, takeaways for caregivers in this season, people who are walking, who's about to approach this season, people who are coming out of this season, maybe relative has gone to glory. What would we want to leave with them being the minister Laverne Hill?
Okay. Did the minister Laverne Hill, but being a daughter that's walked through that and knowing that they have gone home to glory, it is a peace on you because you know you did your job. You know you did not neglect them. You leave them to the curb. You feel kind of, okay, Lord, I did what you asked me to do. And that's what they should take away from that they actually help their person. I'm going to say their person because it'd be child,
Mhm.
daughters, their person have a better life. And, you want a better quality of life until you leave this earth. And if you can give somebody their last few years or whatever a better quality of life, not that it's, begrudgingly and anything, because I went through all the begrudgingly, went through all the fussing. And then I had a director at UMSL told me that I need to get my act together because she's in dementia and ain't gonna get no better because she had took care of her mother and father.
Mhm.
And I was mad. And she was like, why are you mad? I said, because she's doing this and she's doing it on purpose. She was like, no, she's not. And so, yeah, she had to have a come to Jesus meeting with me. And I had that same come to Jesus meeting with other people
Mhm.
about their parents and their loved ones. So the takeaway of when they're gone, it's not like, it's all over. It's like, no, I did my job. I
Mm.
gave them the best that I could do. Long as you're doing the best that you could do for your person that you love and you're trying to make their life as easy and as golden as you can, you are blessed. And God sees that, and believe me, He touches your life. He moves some things out the way that you didn't even understand were there. You got some positions that you didn't wasn't even qualified for. Because I became a case manager and I was only there for a year. And everybody's like, how you get that? As favor's not fair.
Mhm.
He will do those things for you. And those people coming into this season, it's scary and it's tiresome, but there's help out there for you.
Mhm.
There's respite care. There are communities to help support you as you go through this journey, because it's a journey. It's a long journey. Sometimes it's a short journey, but there are people to journey.
And piggybacking on what she's saying, there are people there to support you, like myself, Wayna Berry, and my co host, Teresa Reiniger. Teresa is a grief coach. I
Mhm.
am a licensed professional counselor. So both of us are uniquely qualified. Teresa in grief coaching and myself in grief counseling. We both have taken multiple courses on how to deliver this information, how to support you as you walk through life, how to deal with just transitions in general.
Mhm.
So we both are here. Just know you can always reach us at Female Voices Life and Loss on Facebook. So please inbox us. Let us know if this resonates. Let us know if it doesn't. We'll take all constructive criticism, but just connect with us. Share this with somebody who's in this season, and we're here to support.
Can I
So
say one thing about that? I didn't have that in my season, but going through these seasons I've been going through these last few years, this young lady, when she shared her journey and things that she put on Facebook, helps resonate with me so much that I share some things that she said with other people. And I've told people about counseling. I have young people, I said, well, my daughter's a counselor and she's good with young people, teenagers and things. So I'm spreading that word with you guys too, but because it helped me. I'm just going to tell you just from my own personal point of view, just it's helped me.
So parents, we can learn from our children. I learn things from Gabe all the time, and then I have to apologize for things all the time. So,
Mhm.
we're on this other side of the sun. We're still growing until the Lord calls us
We're
home.
still,
So just know you're in good company. We'll take care of you. And if
yes.
and if we can't, I will find somebody who will. Because as you can see, I come from women who enjoy and loves to serve their family and take care of their community. And
Their
that's where I get
community.
that passion from as well.
Mhm.
Until next time, thank you for listening. And please subscribe, please like,
Yes,
please
yes,
share.
yes, yes.